Federal agents have breached a government compound, exposing a billion-dollar cocaine empire.
4:47 a.m., Caracas, Venezuela. The city sleeps under fog and decay. Streetlights flicker in Altamira, a wealthy district where regime officials live behind walls while the nation starves. But tonight, something moves through the darkness, something that will change everything. A reinforced steel door designed to withstand explosives and small arms fire is peeled open like a tin can. The blast echoes through underground corridors beneath Miraflores Palace, the presidential compound, Venezuela's seat of power. What happens next will expose the truth about how a sitting president turned his nation into a cocaine empire. If you want to see how deep this corruption goes, hit like now. This is not speculation. This is documented fact. This is the story of how the FBI, DEA, ICE, U.S. Navy SEALs, and Delta Force shattered a narco state in a single coordinated strike. By sunrise on January 4, 2026, the world would know. The investigation began 18 months earlier in Miami. Not Caracas, not Venezuela, Miami. DEA Special Agent Miguel Ortega sat in a windowless office reviewing wiretap transcripts from a Colombian cartel operative arrested at Miami International Airport. The man had been caught with 47 kilos of cocaine hidden in industrial machinery shipments. Standard smuggling, nothing unusual except one detail. The shipment originated in Venezuela. Not Colombia, not Peru, Venezuela. That detail changed everything. Cocaine production happens in Colombia, Peru, and Bolivia. Those are the source countries. Venezuela doesn't grow coca plants. It doesn't produce cocaine. So why was high-purity cocaine coming from Venezuela? Agent Ortega pulled shipping manifests going back 3 years. The pattern emerged immediately. Over 380 tons of cocaine had transited through Venezuelan ports between 2023 and 2025, through official government-controlled ports, through military checkpoints, through the front door. Comment exposed below if you're ready to see how this conspiracy worked. The trafficking wasn't hidden. It was authorized. Ortega found shipping documents stamped with Venezuelan military approval codes. He found customs inspection waivers signed by senior port officials. He found maritime transport logs showing Venezuelan Navy vessels providing escort for cargo ships later seized with cocaine. The government wasn't looking the other way. The government was running the operation. By July 2024, the DEA had identified 14 high-ranking Venezuelan officials involved in the network. Military officers, cabinet ministers, presidential advisors, and one name kept appearing in every communication chain: Nicolas Maduro, president of Venezuela. The intelligence came from multiple sources: Colombian cartel members who cooperated after arrest, Venezuelan military defectors seeking asylum, CIA signals intelligence intercepting encrypted communications, and one source inside Miraflores Palace itself, a Venezuelan army colonel. We'll call him Colonel Rivas. Rivas had been arrested in Colombia during a joint DEA-Colombian National Police raid on a cocaine processing lab. He was facing 25 years in a U.S. federal prison. He chose to talk. What Rivas described sounded impossible: a secret bunker beneath the presidential palace. A fortified underground facility where cocaine was stored, processed, and packaged for export. Tons of it. Some DEA supervisors were skeptical. A drug warehouse under the president's office? It sounded too sensational. But Rivas provided details: architectural diagram, construction timeline, access code. Type yes below if you believe this evidence. Satellite imagery confirmed suspicious construction activity around Miraflores between 2018 and 2020. Ground-penetrating radar scans from classified surveillance platforms detected large void spaces beneath the palace. CIA sources confirmed the bunker's existence. It was real. By October 2025, federal prosecutors had assembled a 247-page indictment. The charges were staggering: narco-terrorism conspiracy, cocaine importation conspiracy, money laundering, racketeering, use of weapons in furtherance of drug trafficking. The evidence showed Maduro's network had imported over 1,200 tons of cocaine into the United States between 2015 and 2025. That cocaine contributed to an estimated 38,000 American overdose deaths. 38,000 mothers, fathers, sons, daughters gone. The Justice Department placed a $50 million bounty on Maduro's head, the largest reward ever offered for a foreign leader, but the order came from higher. President Donald Trump authorized Operation Absolute Resolve in November 2025. The mission: extract Maduro from Venezuelan territory and bring him to face justice in the United States. The planning took 2 months. Delta Force operators trained on a mock-up of Miraflores Palace built at Fort Bragg. They rehearsed the raid 47 times. Every door breach, every room clearing, every tactical movement. Navy SEALs prepared maritime insertion route. Army Rangers established overwatch positions. FBI hostage rescue team members trained on evidence collection procedures. Over 400 federal agents and military operators would participate. This wasn't a raid. This was eradication. Hit like if you support these American heroes. 2:14 a.m., January 4th, 2026. Unmarked MH-60. Black Hawk helicopters lift off from the USS Baton, an amphibious assault ship positioned 43 miles off Venezuela's coast. The aircraft fly low, below radar coverage, using terrain masking to avoid detection. Inside the helicopters, Delta Force operators check weapons and equipment: AR-15 carbine, night vision goggles, breaching charges, radio silence. At exactly 2:32 a.m., strike teams hit 6 targets simultaneously across Caracas. In Sabana Grande, DEA agents breach a fortified mansion with a battering ram. The door explodes inward. Flashbangs detonate. Suspects freeze with hands raised. Inside, agents find 2.3 tons of cocaine stacked floor to ceiling, industrial vacuum sealers, hydraulic presses, and $18.4 million in U.S. currency stuffed to duffel bags. In La Guaira port, another team hits a warehouse registered under a fake agricultural company. The warehouse is supposed to store coffee beans. It stores cocaine instead. 4.1 tons packaged in heat-sealed bricks, each brick stamped with a scorpion logo. The signature of Los Escorpiones, a Colombian trafficking organization operating with Venezuelan military protection. In Valencia, agents intercept a convoy of armored SUVs. The vehicles contain 1.1 tons of cocaine and a cache of weapons: AK-47s, AR-15s, fragmentation grenades. The suspects try to resist. FBI tactical teams neutralize the threat within seconds. No Americans injured. But the biggest target isn't a warehouse. It's Miraflores Palace itself. Comment your reaction below. At 4:02 a.m., Delta Force operators fast rope onto the palace roof from hovering helicopters. Within 7 minutes, they've neutralized guards and secured the upper floors. The dictator and his wife are extracted from their private quarters. No resistance, no firefight. They're placed in flex cuffs and transferred to a waiting helicopter. By 4:23 a.m., Nicolas Maduro is aboard the USS Baton, in federal custody, facing life in prison. But while Maduro is being processed, another phase of the mission begins: the bunker. FBI Special Agent Ortega leads a specialized evidence team into the palace. Accompanying him are forensic technicians, DOJ prosecutors, and Marine raiders providing security. Their target, the secret facility Colonel Rivas described. The team moves through gilded corridors, past marble floors and crystal chandeliers, past portraits of Simón Bolívar, until they reach a storage room adjacent to the palace basement. A technician uses ground-penetrating radar to scan the walls. The device detects a massive void space behind the northern wall. There's something back there. The false wall is reinforced concrete painted to look like ordinary cinder block, almost impossible to detect visually. But the radar doesn't lie. Diamond-tipped saws slice through the concrete. Hydraulic spreaders pry open sections. It takes 30 minutes. When the wall is removed, the entrance appears. A steel security door with an electronic keypad lock, the kind protecting bank vaults. An FBI technical specialist bypasses the lock mechanism. The door clicks open. Share this story so more people know the truth. The stairwell descends 40 feet below ground level. Reinforced concrete walls, LED lighting strips, independent electrical system with battery backup. This isn't a hasty construction. This is a professionally engineered facility that cost millions to build. At the bottom is another door, blast-resistant, designed to withstand military-grade explosives. The team uses a shaped charge. The explosion is deafening. When smoke clears, FBI operators push through with weapons raised. What they find takes their breath away. The bunker is vast, approximately 5,000 square feet divided into multiple chambers, and it's filled with cocaine. Not bags, not bundles, bricks. Individually wrapped kilogram packages stacked on industrial shelving units reaching nearly to the ceiling. Each brick wrapped in brown packing tape, each stamped with a scorpion logo. Los Escorpiones. DEA forensic chemists take samples for field testing. The cocaine tests at 94.7% purity. Exceptional quality. The team begins counting. Each brick is photographed before being moved. Each stack measured and inventoried. The numbers are staggering. Initial estimates, 2,347 kilo, over 20 tons of cocaine. At wholesale U.S. prices, that quantity has a street value exceeding $612 million. But the dollar amount isn't the shocking part. 20 tons of cocaine doesn't just appear. It represents months of production across multiple laboratories. It represents thousands of acres of coca cultivation. It represents a sophisticated logistics network. It represents state-level involvement, type justice. If you believe Maduro deserves life in prison, in one corner, investigators find manufacturing equipment, industrial scales capable of weighing up to 100 kilo, vacuum sealing machines for maritime transport, hydraulic presses to compress cocaine powder into bricks, chemicals used in cocaine processing, hydrochloric acid, acetone, ether. This wasn't just storage. This was an active processing facility located directly beneath the president's office. In an adjacent chamber, the team finds records, physical ledgers, spiral-bound notebooks filled with handwritten entries documenting shipments, weights, destinations, and payments. The entries use coded language, initials instead of names, abbreviations instead of locations. But FBI analysts crack the code within hours. One ledger covers a 6-month period from March to August 2025. It documents 83 separate cocaine shipments totaling 41.6 tons. The transactions generated over $837 million in revenue. But the notebooks aren't the most damning evidence. In a small office area, investigators find computers, encrypted hard drives containing financial records, communications, and video files, security camera footage from inside the bunker itself. In one video dated November 12, 2024, a man identified as Major General Hugo Ruiz inspects pallets of cocaine while speaking on a cell phone. Ruiz had been under federal indictment since 2021. In another video dated December 3, 2024, a civilian identified as Samuel Cortez meets with Colombian men. They examine cocaine sample. They discuss logistics. The audio is clear. Cortez offers to facilitate maritime transport through Venezuelan ports. This isn't rogue corruption. This is systematic enterprise operating with government approval. If this shocks you, hit like now. By dawn, the intelligence picture is complete. Inside the USS Bataan Command Center, agents and prosecutors gather around a massive digital map. The map shows 47 red markers in Venezuela. Each represents a cartel asset. But the network doesn't stop at Venezuela's borders. It extends across the hemisphere. Shell companies in Panama, money laundering operations in the Dominican Republic, distribution hubs in Honduras and Guatemala, maritime routes through the Caribbean, corrupt port officials in Mexico, and cartel cells in Miami, Houston, New York, and Los Angeles. At 6:18 a.m., the order is given. Operation Scorpion's Nest. A coordinated multinational takedown. In Maracaibo, DEA agents storm a drug superlab producing 214 ton of cocaine per week. They seize 3.7 tons of cocaine and arrest 22 cartel members. In Valencia, a convoy carrying cartel enforcers is intercepted. The vehicles contain 1.1 tons of cocaine, $4.3 million in cash, and military-grade weapons. In Puerto Cabello, Navy SEALs board a cargo vessel flagged in Liberia. Hidden inside shipping containers are 6.8 tons of cocaine destined for Europe. In Ciudad Guayana, near the Colombian border, agents discover underground tunnels used to smuggle cocaine and migrants. The tunnels have reinforced walls, ventilation systems, and electric carts. At the end of one tunnel, agents find a compound where cartel members held migrants for ransom. 17 hostages are rescued. By noon, the operation has seized over 34 tons of cocaine, $94.7 million in cash, 340 weapons, and arrested 118 individuals. But the raids are only the beginning. Comment exposed if you believe corruption must be dragged into the light. In the United States, IRS criminal investigators and FBI forensic accountants trace the money. The financial web is vast. Shell companies within shell company, offshore accounts in tax havens, real estate in Miami, Madrid, and Dubai. It takes weeks to untangle, but the pattern becomes clear. President Maduro had personally authorized a parallel financial system to launder cocaine proceeds. His digital signature appears on encrypted documents found in the bunker, documents authorizing front companies, documents approving cocaine shipments through military ports, documents directing drug profits into offshore accounts. This is not corruption. This is command-level collusion. Among the most damaging files are communications between Maduro and General Alejandro Torres, his defense minister. In one encrypted email dated September 2024, Torres writes, "The shipment is secured, military transport authorized, no customs inspection, route clear." Maduro replies, "Good. Ensure payment is transferred to the usual accounts, 15% to the general fund as discussed." These aren't coded messages. These are explicit instructions for drug trafficking. Further analysis reveals Maduro used drug money to finance political campaigns, bribe judges, pay off military officers, and fund propaganda operations. He turned the Venezuelan government into a criminal enterprise. But the network wasn't just about Venezuela. DEA analysts trace shipments to Europe, Spain, Italy, Netherlands, where cocaine was distributed through Eastern European organized crime networks. They trace shipments to West Africa, Guinea-Bissau, Ghana, where cocaine was transshipped to European markets. They trace financial flows to Lebanon, where Hezbollah operatives used cocaine profits to finance terrorism. And they trace connections to Iran. Hit subscribe so you don't miss what happens next. Among the most disturbing discoveries is evidence that Iran's Revolutionary Guard Corps provided technical assistance building the bunker beneath Miraflores. Instruction manuals found in the facility are written in Farsi with Spanish translations. Iranian engineers helped design the ventilation system and security protocols. Why would Iran help Venezuela build a cocaine bunker? Because Venezuela had become Iran's foothold in the Western Hemisphere, a base for intelligence operations, weapons smuggling, and anti-American activities. Maduro traded his nation's sovereignty for Iranian support and cartel cash. As investigators dig deeper, another truth emerges. The narco state hadn't just corrupted politicians and generals, it had infiltrated law enforcement at every level. Among files recovered from the bunker are lists of Venezuelan police officers, National Guard members, and judges on cartel payroll. Over 340 names, monthly payments ranging from $2,000 to $50,000, depending on rank and services provided. Some falsified patrol reports allowing drug convoys through checkpoints. Some leaked raid schedules to cartel operatives. Some actively participated in trafficking. Some murdered whistleblowers. In one case, investigators find evidence that a senior police commander ordered the assassination of 3 honest officers who stumbled upon a cartel safe house. The officers were found dead in their patrol car, officially ruled a suicide pact. The files prove it was murder. For honest Venezuelan officers, the betrayal is devastating. In interviews conducted by DEA agents, several officers break down in tears. One 15-year veteran says, "I thought I was serving my country. Now I find out I was working for a cartel." Share this video before it gets buried. Federal agents prioritize arresting corrupt officials. Over 70 Venezuelan police and military personnel are taken into custody. Among those arrested is General Alejandro Torres himself, the defense minister who coordinated shipments with Maduro. Torres is found hiding in a safe house in eastern Caracas. He surrenders without resistance. As days pass, the operation's full scale becomes clear. This wasn't just a Venezuelan problem, this was a hemispheric crisis. At its peak, the network moved over 320 tons of cocaine per year, enough to supply every major U.S. city for months, enough to fuel addiction epidemics across continents, enough to generate over $14.3 billion in annual revenue. The network corrupted officials in Colombia, Panama, Honduras, Guatemala, Mexico, and the United States. In Miami, agents arrest a port official who accepted $200,000 in bribe to allow cocaine containers through customs. In Houston, they arrest a logistics company owner who provided trucks to transport cocaine from the border to Dallas and Atlanta. In New York, they arrest a money launderer who used check cashing store to launder over $83 million in drug proceeds. But the most chilling discovery is a file on Maduro's personal computer, a file labeled Project Eclipse. The file contains a long-term strategic plan, not to hide drug trafficking, but to institutionalize it. The plan called for permanent narco-state infrastructure that could outlast any administration. It called for cartel-controlled agricultural zones. It called for expanded maritime smuggling routes and purchase of submarines for cocaine transport. It called for creation of a shadow government that would continue operating even if the official government collapsed. And it called for using drug money to finance a new political movement across Latin America, one that would spread the narco-state model to other countries. If you believe justice matters, comment justice below. Maduro hadn't just built a criminal empire, he built a blueprint for exporting it. If the American operation hadn't happened, Project Eclipse would have continued. The poison would have spread. By the end of January 2026, Maduro and 17 top officials are in federal custody awaiting trial in the Southern District of New York. The charges are sweeping: narco-terrorism, conspiracy to import cocaine, conspiracy to distribute 5 kilos or more of cocaine, use of weapons in furtherance of drug trafficking, money laundering, racketeering. The penalties are severe. Narco-terrorism alone carries a mandatory minimum of 20 years and maximum of life in federal prison. Combined with other charges, Maduro faces multiple life sentences. There will be no plea deal. The evidence is too strong. The crime's too severe. Federal prosecutors estimate Maduro's network was responsible for importing over 200 tons of cocaine into the United States between 2015 and 2025. That cocaine contributed to tens of thousands of overdose deaths. It fueled gang violence in American cities. It destroyed families and communities, and it enriched a dictator to the tune of billions. The trial will be one of the largest narcotics prosecutions in history, but the legal case is only part of the reckoning. In Venezuela, the fall of the Maduro regime created a power vacuum. Interim leaders, supported by the democratic opposition, are working to rebuild institutions. It will take years, perhaps decades, but for the first time in a generation, there is hope. In the United States, the fentanyl crisis continues, but the takedown of the Venezuelan network disrupted a major supply chain. DEA officials estimate the operation removed 18% of cocaine supply to the U.S. market in a single blow. It's not enough, but it's a start. Share this so more communities understand what happened. Here's the truth no one wants to say out loud. Power doesn't always need violence to survive. Sometimes it only needs silence. Silence from officials who know what's happening but say nothing. Silence from officers who see corruption but look away. Silence from citizens who suspect the truth but are too afraid to speak. Maduro built his empire on silence. For years, that silence protected it. But silence has a cost. Over the past decade, cocaine from the Venezuelan network contributed to an estimated 38,000 American deaths. 38,000 mothers, fathers, sons, daughters, brothers, sisters, gone. Not because of natural disaster, not because of pandemic, because a dictator decided to turn his country into a drug factory, and because too many people stayed silent. The bunker beneath Miraflores was more than a storage facility. It was a monument to corruption, a testament to what happens when ambition, greed, and silence come together. 20 tons of cocaine, hundreds of millions of dollars, thousands of lives destroyed, all hidden beneath a palace where a president slept at night. If you're still watching, tap like so, more people see this story. This is not just about Venezuela. It's a warning about what happens when governments become criminal enterprises. It's a reminder that justice, no matter how long it takes, will eventually come, even for those who believe they are untouchable. Even for those who hide in bunkers beneath palaces, there is no fortress secure enough, no wall high enough, no silence strong enough to protect those who betray their oaths and destroy lives for profit. The raid on Miraflores Palace proved something important. No one is above the law. Not presidents, not generals, not dictators who believe power makes them invincible. When American federal agents breached that bunker, they didn't just seize cocaine. They seized evidence of systematic corruption spanning decades. They exposed a criminal conspiracy that reached the highest levels of government, and they sent a message to every corrupt leader around the world. Your day is coming. Comment your thoughts below if you support these operations. The operation also revealed something else: the resilience of American law enforcement and military capabilities. 400 operators executed a complex multinational operation across 6 countries. They coordinated simultaneous raids on 47 targets. They extracted a sitting head of state from a fortified compound. No American casualties, no operational failures, just precision, just execution, just justice. That's what American forces do when corruption threatens American lives. The men and women who planned and executed Operation Absolute Resolve and Operation Scorpion's Nest deserve recognition. FBI agents who spent years building the case, DEA analysts who traced the money, ICE investigators who tracked the networks, Delta Force operators who risked their lives, Navy SEALs who provided overwatch, Marine raiders who secured evidence. They didn't do it for glory. They did it because American families were dying from cocaine and fentanyl flooding across our borders. They did it because justice demanded action, and they succeeded. Type yes if you believe these heroes deserve our support. In the months ahead, more details will emerge, more arrests will be made, more networks will be dismantled, because the takedown of Maduro wasn't the end. It was the beginning. The evidence seized from the bunker has opened new investigations across Latin America, Europe, Africa, and the Middle East. Prosecutors are building cases against dozens of co-conspirators. Foreign governments are cooperating. Cartel members are negotiating plea deals to avoid life sentences. The web is unraveling. But for now, one thing is certain. The man who turned Venezuela into a narco state is sitting in a federal detention cell in New York, awaiting trial, facing life in prison, knowing the empire he built has collapsed, knowing the silence that protected him has been shattered, and knowing that justice, delayed but not denied, has finally arrived. This is the story of how corruption at the highest levels was exposed, how an entire government was revealed as a criminal enterprise, how American forces dismantled a narco state in a single coordinated strike. This is the story of the FBI raid that seized 20 tons of cocaine from beneath a presidential palace. This is the story of Operation Scorpion's Nest. If you want to see more stories like this, hit subscribe now. Share this video with everyone who needs to know the truth. Comment exposed. If you believe corruption must always be brought into the light, this is only the beginning. The fight continues, and justice will not stop until every corrupt official, every cartel operative, every trafficker who profits from American suffering faces the consequences. No matter where they hide, no matter how powerful they think they are, justice is coming, and it's relentless.